This is a review of the third reading knowledge quiz. One of the things I've told you about when I grade these quizzes, I use my judgment. They're all worth 1 point, no matter how many questions there are, and I try to grade them to get a sense of how well the student knows the text. And I have to use my judgment. And for this exam, I had to use my judgment in a different way, and that was that there were too many wrong answers. That is, the quiz was too hard. A few people got most of the questions right, but most people didn't. So I had to make the judgment that the quiz was not proper. So I just gave everybody full credit who took the quiz. But that doesn't mean your answers were correct. That's why I'm doing this video, because I want to review what I had in mind for correct answers. Number one, how does normative relativism differ from metaethical relativism? One of the things we discussed in class, I believe, is that normative relativism stands on the basis of metaethical relativism. That is, if you're a normative relativist, you are also a metaethical relativist. But it doesn't go the other way. That is, metaethical relativism does not imply or entail normative relativism. Metaethical relativism is the idea that all ethical judgments are relative to something, the standpoint of the judger, whether that's an individual standpoint or really the dominant idea that it's a cultural standpoint. It just makes that observation. It doesn't tell you to do anything on the basis of that observation. Normative relativism does. It takes the extra step of saying, well, since the conclusion of metaethical relativism is that all ethical judgments are merely relative to culture, and then it takes the extra step and says you shouldn't judge the practices of a different culture because they're just as good as yours. So normative relativism takes a step beyond metaethical relativism in the respect that it tells you to do something, which is not judge. Metaethical relativism doesn't. It's just an observation. Number two, the author suggests that normative relativism might be self-contradictory. How so? Well, normative relativism rests on the basis of metaethical relativism, which says that there are no universal moral principles that are valid for everyone at all times. But it has its own principle, the one that says that you shouldn't judge other cultures, which seems to be just that, a universal moral principle. So that's the self-contradiction. Seemingly, I'm not sure that it's true, but that's the accusation against normative relativism, is that it says that there are no universal moral principles, yet it uses one. And it can't, so there's a self-contradiction. Finally, number three, what is the author's point? Is an example of getting different answers to a quadratic equation. The same point that I brought up in class more than once, and that is that relativism is not the only way to account for differing opinions on the truth of something. He brings up the idea of the math problem, and I think I've used the same example. If people get different answers to a math problem, that doesn't mean that all of them are true relative to the person. It doesn't necessarily mean that. More common sense, it means at least one person is wrong. And that sometimes differences of opinion can be accounted for in a realist way by saying that, maybe somebody's right and somebody's wrong, and that's why they differ. Or maybe they're all wrong, but wrong in different ways, So the point is that mere differences in cultural practices regarding morality does not necessarily imply relativism. It could just be that some practices are wrong, and that's why there is a difference of opinion. So that's what I had in mind. Again, results, it was a little too challenging for an in-class exam. So I gave everybody full credit who took it. But this material you need to know. So watching these videos when I send them out is a good idea.